You better hit that last line of Vicks before your camera comes on.
Hey, everybody.
You got it put away just in time.
Did you hear it hit my desk because I threw it? Hey, everybody. Welcome into another Fireside Chat with Hank and Abby. We love these, I started to say impromptu. They're not exactly impromptu conversations, but they are fun, off the cuff, um, off the dome observations, hot take, inspired, yay, even welcomed here. This is this is where we just get together and we pitch out a topic and we just talk about what we think about it, or how these topics maybe how we've experienced them, how they affect our writing life, etc., etc. We welcome your input as well. Hello to everybody in the chat, NJ and Jane and Rob,
Renee?
Zarintha, Emily Blue. Welcome,
Zarintha is
everybody.
Bernadette, by the way.
When all the names changed a few weeks ago, I just completely lost who was who. And so Bernadette, okay, I'm going to try to commit that to memory. I will not succeed, but I'm going to try. Is everybody getting ready to for the holidays? And we've got two more work days in the year, and I'm
I'm trying to cram like a month's worth of work into those 2 days.
Same.
I'm like,
while also getting things staged so that when we come back after the Christmas New Year holiday, I'll have something that's already kind of brewing to hit the ground running, because it's nothing worse than coming back and going, wow, I wonder what we're going to do this year.
I wonder what the 2 months worth of work that we're cramming into 2 days is all about. It's coming.
For those of you listening audio only, we were pointing to a comment about cohorts, and we will have information. Do we have any information to say just yet, Abby?
So we'll give you the basics. It's going to start second week in November, or not November. Oh, my word. I would have plenty of time then.
Right.
February, halfway through February. And it is a revision cohort this time. So you're going to have a full finished draft before cohorts start. So if you would like to come, and it is going to be, we are going to walk you through in 6 weeks how to have a really solid revision plan. You're going to know the process of how to revise. Doesn't matter what your genre is, doesn't matter what your book is. We're going to teach you a process, and we are going to get you a solid plan that you can follow in order to get that book whipped into shape. And so that is sort of our goal with this one. We will have a writing cohort again for first drafts before the end of the year, but we're going to run this one next. So
and I
Renee
think
says good. She's got a finished full draft.
Ooh, so excited! The one difference in this, for me, is that our first draft cohort, we really wanted you to be finished with your book, or at least very close to it by the end of that. Whereas the revision cohort, it's more about building the tools that you can then revise. Like you may have a fully revised novel by the end of that, but not necessarily. It's not a
No, because revision is iterative. And I think that's what people have to understand. You're not just going to do one pass and be done. As a matter of fact, you're probably going to do 5 or 10 passes before you're finished. And you're not starting at page 1 and going page 2, page 3, page 4 until you get to the end. This is a very different process than writing. And so that's why we're really focused on 2 P's for this. Not PP, like number 1 or number 2, but like process and plan. And that's what you're going to have by the end of this. You're going to know the process and you're going to have a plan. Two
Yep.
P's. So,
Two P's.
two P's.
Two P's.
So,
yeah, we hope that all of you will join us. If you have a finished novel and want to do that, we're going to be announcing that when we come back after break and get all that stuff going. So today,
hold on. My plan is to have no plan.
that's going to be a problem, Rob. That's, I mean, or it may not be. Who knows? You know,
You do you, Rob. You do you.
Yeah. It's too close to the end of the year for me to, try to get in your business, Rob. You do you, but
he needs another line of Vicks before he can comment on that.
Yeah. So today we're going to talk, and please, if you have more comments, put them in there. We're not so worried about staying laser focused today. But what I wanted to talk about is, and this kind of stemmed from a conversation we were having the other day about the fact that because of NaNoWriMo and we're so thankful for NaNoWriMo, for their legacy, for the thing that Nano created in the writing community, for so many reasons. Like it was a wonderful, wonderful thing. Sadly, it is no more, but that's another discussion for another day. But one thing that I was concerned, but concern is a strong word. One thing that I noticed is that people started to think of November as the time where you write a novel. And I was thinking, well, why do you have to wait till November to write a novel? You've got 11 more months of the year. And so I wanted to talk to you, Abby, about kind of building a habit of being a writer, not being someone that shows up for a challenge at a particular time of year. And that may feel, like you're splitting hairs or something. But what I noticed when I first began writing, and all of this hopefully will come together and start to make sense. When I first began writing, I thought that I had one book inside me, that I had one story that I wanted to tell. And I've said this a number of times in different live shows and things and I think this happens to a lot of people, that you have this idea for a story and you just can't wait to tell it. And you think that you're going to pour everything that you've ever had, thought, believed into this one book. And then when you're done, there will stand a testament of everything that Abby Matthews believes about everything. And,
and it only takes 168 pages. That's all it does.
Exactly. And if anybody ever wants to know, there's a written testament of exactly, what it is. And you kind of get obsessed with this one story. But something happens when you get about 3/4 of the way through with that first book, is other ideas start picking up and you start invading your brain. And I don't know, there's probably a lot of reasons for that. Maybe the stress of telling the story, you kind of start to see the end in sight, and so your brain relaxes a little bit, and you're,
I call it shiny object syndrome.
Well, there's also that. There's also the fact that, okay, here's a perfect example. My oldest daughter, Lauren, when she watches a TV series or reads a book, she will stop before the end of it because she doesn't want it to end. So if there's an 8-episode series of something, and the whole family, we have this family chat that goes off all the time, and it's lively. There's 5 kids and spouses and all that. So, and somebody will say, "Oh my gosh, did you guys watch this show?" And everybody will be like, "Oh yeah, we watched it. It was amazing." All that. And Lauren's like, "Well, I got to episode 7 and I stopped." And she will not finish things because in her mind, like, the thing is, there's no disappointment at the end. If you don't finish it, you're not missing the thing when it's over. And I think that happens to a lot of people when writing. They'll get close to the end and then they start getting distracted by all the other things that, and then this thing never gets finished because it's
Mhm.
always, it's always just kind of dangling just out of reach. And
What's the fear? That's my question. What's the fear of finishing?
I
Because
don't
they're afraid
know.
of something.
They're afraid of something. Yeah. So when I started thinking about kind of being a year-round writer, if and I think November is a great time to start writing a novel. It's actually not a great time because we got Thanksgiving and my birthday's in the middle of the month, and that's terrible for
That ruins
everybody. I
it for
know
all of us.
for
Yeah,
all of us,
all of
right?
us.
Yeah,
Very focused
and
on you, Hank.
that's very, very folks. This is a very me-centric show. I don't know if you picked up on that today, but it's I blame the Vicks. Um, I'm so scatterbrained today. So, but so if you are writing a novel in November and then we start, we give it December to air out a little bit. We come back January and we start revising that novel, and we can go through revisions for a couple of months, and then if you're going to indie publish early spring, you can start getting all of your processes ready to publish, and then by May you're ready to write another book. But some people think, well, November is the time to write a novel, and they don't realize that you can. This should be a process that you can repeat over and over and over again. And this kind of ties back to cohorts because this is a process, a theme that we really want to help people establish in their lives. That once you learn all these things and you figure out how to implement them for yourselves, this should be a process that you can just repeat over and over and over until you have a bookshelf full of books.
Yeah.
So I said a lot there.
I mean, I
What do
have
you?
all sorts of thoughts about what a year-long writing process should look like. And it's not
Yeah,
just me and my experience that I'm drawing on
yeah,
to give some of these examples, but also some of my friends' experience as well. Because so years ago, when I was actually still working on my first book, I was at an in-person writing retreat in Maine. And
okay,
Serena Bowen was there. So she is a very successful self published romance author. She is friends, and actually, she co hosts a podcast with my friend KJ. But Serena was at this writing conference, and I said to her that I was afraid to work on two projects at once because I was afraid I'd never finish the first project. And she said to me, if you're going to make this your business, you have to learn how to work on two projects at once. But I have a secret. She's like, I don't draft two projects at the same time. She's like, I'm drafting one and revising or polishing one at any given time. And
yeah,
that actually uses two different parts of your brain. And now she's also one of these people that has 8 hours a day to sit in front of the computer and dedicate to her work because this is
right,
her full-time job. Now, that's not everyone, certainly not me, certainly not you.
yeah,
But I have found I have a different rhythm for writing. And this has just this year all started to come together for me, what I've actually done and set up for myself.
yeah.
So I have written 7 books at this point, right? Now, out of those 7 books, only one is in the world that anyone can purchase. But as you and I were saying the other day, Hank,
Yeah.
it took me a really long time to
Hmm.
learn how to, I think, really revise, like truly
Hmm.
revise, where I was not just
Right.
going through and just polishing sentences and just like I was
Hmm.
really afraid to pull things apart for a long time. I didn't really,
Well, it's so difficult to put it together in the first place
yeah,
that
you don't want to
yeah,
touch it.
Yeah, and
You're like,
until you go through that process and you realize that it's not as
yeah.
earth-shattering as it feels to pull your stuff apart. Because here's the truth. That story, once you've told it, exists in your brain and
Mhm.
you can hold it together. And when you start pulling it apart, you're it's not
It's still
just
there.
gonna
It,
tumble. Yeah.
I
It's
mean,
not gonna
and it's
fall like a
not.
house of cards.
Yeah, like all you do is you just duplicate that file so you always have the
Yeah,
original there. It's not like you're
exactly.
literally cutting up a pen and paper manuscript. I mean,
Yep.
don't be so precious with it. But what
Yeah,
I
and
figured
in
out,
Dabble, you can
yeah,
inside your novel project, you can duplicate the manuscript and
that's
have it in the
exactly what I
same
did.
file.
That's
Yeah, and it's
exactly what I
super,
did. So I could
super
just
easy.
bump back to see the original and then bump back without ever having to leave my folder.
Yep, yep.
But what I realized once I figured out how to revise is those first practice books
Right.
are now ripe to be revised and put out into the world.
Yes.
They were not wasted. Every one of them has merit. Every one of them is something that in an instant I can turn back, throw myself back into. Now I know what to do with them. So I'm now looking ahead at my own writing career with all this fodder in the bank.
Yep.
And I've realized that I can now, like Serena said, be revising and writing at the same time because all I have to do is pull that file,
Yep.
use my analytical brain to start working on that. And when I'm having a creative moment, I put on my writer's cap. Now I can start working on more material that I just keep putting in the bank. And I sat down and I mapped it out. I've already got 2026 and 2027 mapped out.
Oh, that's incredible. That's
And
incredible.
that feels good.
Yeah, it does. Yeah, it does.
So I'm
And
going to
he
be revising all year long and
love it.
writing all year long.
Well, and here's a fun thing that especially if you are taking the tack that you are writing and revising, you know, two different parts of the day, is that inevitably when you're revising that novel, you will have new ideas.
Mhm.
And they may fit the novel that you're revising. It may be easy to slip in this new thing, but a lot of times it will be kind of big ideas. And that's perfect for the novel you're writing in a lot of cases. Like you kind of map out and uh plan out the novel you're writing, but when you're revising, you'll get these big ideas. You're like, oh well, let me put this into the plan because you're at the perfect stage there to
Mhm.
introduce new ideas. And we think of writing and revising, revising being the non-creative side, but you have one brain. Yeah, you have two hemispheres, but you are a creative person. And even if you're doing a job that feels less creative, that stuff still feeds the
Mhm.
creative side of your brain. And you know,
And revising, and you see some of these like kind of big, like especially with my first manuscripts, kind of rookie mistakes that I made,
mhm,
just reminds me not to make them again this next time around as I'm writing the new stuff. So it actually
yeah,
all really helps as long as you can sort of, juggle that. And
right,
maybe, so like I see RL says, what should you do first in a day, write or revise? You don't even have to do it all in the same day. You got
yeah,
7 days in a week. You
yeah,
go where your energy is. Maybe you're a creature of habit and you want to write in the morning, revise in the evening. Maybe you're the kind of person who you're like, I'm going to revise all week long. And as like my reward for getting to the end of chapter 17, I'm going to work on my new novel idea all weekend long.
yeah,
There's no right or wrong answer to that. I think that's your own brain. You go where your own energy is. I
yeah,
still have to admit, and I think it's a skill switching between those two. I
yeah,
don't think you should switch between those two in the same session. You're going to be less productive because that
yeah.
is that is brain science.
Yep, I
That is
agree.
Yeah, that is,
Yeah.
you pick one and focus on it for that session.
Yeah,
Um,
multitasking is not an actual
yeah,
thing in a lot of cases. That give
yeah,
yourself your whole. I'm definitely more creative in the morning. Like
me too.
I want to wake up. I want to get a cup of coffee. I can sit down and I've just got ideas firing off everywhere. It gets to be 3 or 4 in the afternoon, and I'm like, and I'm just
Mhm.
not there.
Yeah.
But some people like come alive at 8 o'clock at night, and that's not me. I'm looking for somewhere to,
No,
a rock
that's
to
my
crawl under.
husband, and I'm like, "What is wrong with you? Where did you get this energy, and can I have some?"
Right, right. Is it in a can? Can I?
Yeah, like, crack it open.
Yeah, yeah. That's it.
Can you snort it like Vicks?
Y'all, I've had a head cold since Saturday, and Abby was making fun of me yesterday because I was huffing Vicks out of the jar, and I was in the store and I found these little I don't know what it is. It's an inhaler that like gives you
You
a
sent
little
me that
shot of.
picture, and I cracked up. I'm like, "He's gonna have that on camera next time I see him, guaranteed."
Yeah, I was standing in Walmart and I sent a picture of this to Abby. I was like, I found it. So anyway, um, so you are let's just break this down a little bit. You've got
Mhm.
26 and 27 mapped out. Like
Heck yeah.
what does that mean? Like you don't have to give us specifics, but like are you do you
I
have
have
books
3
planned to
books.
write? Okay.
Oh, I
Okay.
have 3 books for 2026. 2 of them are completely done, ready to go to the copy editor. They're
Okay.
actually in the hands of the illustrator right now. The 3rd book, we are wrapping up our revisions. My goal is actually to have it done by the end of 2025. I think it's going to maybe take us till the end of January. And then that one will be also in the same shape to send to a copy editor. So my goal was very early in 2026 to have 3 books ready to publish at some point this year. I say this year. We'll pretend like it's already 2026. And then I have one manuscript that is ready for revision, but I have decided to actually break it down into 3 lower middle grade books and make it a
Okay.
series. Part of that was the one with the British editor that upset me so much. And I realized that if I break it up and just add a little bit more to it, I actually have 3 stories in that one story. And so that one longer story. So I'm going to then spend the rest of 2026 tackling that for 2027
Yeah.
and go from there. And then I figure I'm just going to keep writing, because here's the thing. Every time I've finished a draft of something and then I've sent
Yeah.
it off to an editor, once it's in an editor's hands, it can take 6 weeks, 8 weeks
Yeah.
sometimes before it's back to you.
Yep.
You got to do something to fill that time. And so for me, that's the perfect time to kick out a new draft of something. And so that has always been my strategy. When an editor has my work, I'm working on a draft of something else. And when it comes back, I try and time it to where I wrap up one draft as the revisions hit my desk so that I can flip flop that way. But I really am going to try in 2026 to do just what Serena said and juggle, not 6, 7. I realize the audio only people will not see what I'm doing, but I have a middle schooler,
7.
6,
Yeah.
7, juggle those 2 projects at once. So try and
So,
always be revising and drafting.
so here's a question for you, as someone that has 6 finished novels or
Mhm.
books. I'm not clear about the classification for middle grade sometimes, so just
Yeah,
would say
that's all right.
books. You can correct me. Um, and now that a little trouble goes a long way is out in the world, and you've gone
Yeah.
through the whole process of publishing this book. And for those listening to the audio, I'm holding up my Kindle with Abby's freshly published book on it. going through the process of all of your revisions and the publishing of this, do you now look at some of your other books that you have finished and maybe gotten feedback on revision or edits, whatever? Can you now see those
Mhm.
bits of feedback that you got in a different light?
Oh yeah.
Like, does that feedback mean something different to you now? Now that you've kind of effectively figured out your revision process, because I think this was a big thing for you this year, is kind of discovering um, kind of what made your process click, and
Mhm.
kind of being able to go from, okay, I've got this feedback and I don't exactly know what to do with it. So I'm just going to go write another book and maybe I'll get it right, this time, because trust me, I went through that as well.
Mhm.
Until you kind of understand what to do with that feedback and what feedback to take and implement, and
Yeah.
what implement to, or what feedback to be able to say, well, you know, you don't get what I'm doing. Can you look at those past projects in a different light now?
Yeah, because that's, to be honest, that's a skill
It
that I
is.
think writers have to practice.
Yes.
I mean, maybe some of us are born with this really natural ability to be able to process feedback and sort through it and decide what's usable, what's not usable, what's opinion, what's maybe, I'll say, analytical fact, like
Yeah.
where does this fall in? What makes my story better? And what takes my story in a direction that I don't intend? And the funny thing was, so I already referenced it once, this earlier, about having this one edit by this British editor who she basically told me I couldn't fix this story. And so I took everything she said and I completely rewrote it. I sent it to a different editor to look at it.
Yeah.
And he said, I actually don't agree with the first editor's response. He's like, I think your first story was much closer to what this needs to be. Then he's like, the second story is junk. And I read it. I was like,
Oh,
okay, the second
wow.
story is junk. But the second version of the story, I learned that wasn't a waste. I learned by writing that. I mean, I wrote 40,000 words of nonsense to figure out that the first iteration was where my heart lied. And when I realized I just needed to bring it down a reading level, I fully acknowledge, by the way, this is not a problem that most people writing for adults have, where you think,
Yeah.
I need to bring it down a reading level. But once I realized, let's bring it down a reading level and divide it up, it all clicked into place. All of it clicked into place for me.
Mm, so much to dissect there. So, um, and this goes to, are you, how do I say this?
You don't even
You
have to say it
rewrote,
nice.
well, you rewrote the book to their vision of the book,
Mhm,
and your words, it was trash, when
mhm.
your vision was where your heart was.
Yep.
And that's everything right there. Now, could you have told it better? Could you have better served your target audience?
Mhm.
Obviously, and
Right.
you figured that out. But when did you figure that out? Like, at what, was it in writing this other thing that you started to like?
No, I was like
How
yesterday years old when I figured it out. Like, let's just break this down. I think I wrote the original one in 2020, right?
okay, the
Maybe
year that shall not be
2021.
named.
The year, yeah, the year that we won't talk about.
Right.
So I wrote it like 4 or 5 years ago.
Okay.
And then I sat on it for maybe 2 years. I wrote something else. I moved on. I think I wrote 2 books before I decided I'm going to circle back around and I'm going to tackle it again. I've had enough time that has passed. I'm going to read that edit letter, put on my big girl panties, read that edit letter. I'm going to tackle it exactly like she says. right? This
Yeah.
lady is smart. I want to learn.
So she
I'm
says.
going to do it. Yeah. And so, and I do think she was smart.
Yeah.
I do
Yeah.
think, I mean, that was just it, is she was smart, but she just wasn't aligned with what it was I was trying to do. And that's the problem with one-off editors who you have a very transactional experience with. They're not inside your head. They don't have a conversation with you going in. They only know what you put on the page.
Right.
So she was only reacting to the words that I put on the page. And those words were not reflective of what it was I was trying to do, quite possibly because I didn't 100% know what I wanted to do. I kind of knew what I wanted to do. But for me, and this has been a question since day one writing, how
Yeah.
old is the audience that I want to reach? And I have flip flopped between elementary school, middle school, lower elementary school, upper elementary school, and that's a huge difference for people who are writing in Kidlit. And
Yeah.
so once I was able to really hone in on that, I knew better how to tackle the problem. And it took following her advice to a T and then being told by another expert, this is junk. That I think that was the kick in the pants that I needed to say, okay, I'm going to approach this a different way. And then again, I sat on it for a couple more years. So I have a girlfriend, Julie Arts, who told me this was such good advice once. She said, you realize words don't expire. They're not milk in the fridge, right? She's like, if you're having problems with something, put it away. Put it away for a while until you have the skills to come back to it.
Yeah.
And that's what it took. And maybe I'm a slow learner, but it took me like 6 books, then 7. So now I'm going to circle back around and make books 2, right? 8, 9, and 10.
It happens. I've had that experience before where I had what I thought was a brilliant idea, and it was, but I couldn't write it at the time, and I think I needed to get some other life experience or be able to experience some things that let me truthfully inhabit this character I was trying to write, and I just hadn't like the plot device that I thought of was amazing, but I just couldn't tell it. And like you said, I think that's a beautiful thing that words don't have an expiration date. I keep a file in my Dabble project that is the junkyard, I call it. And it's pieces of stories. Maybe I'm the master of writing first chapters. I have a million first chapters that I've written that are so
I think
good.
you had one that you started on this morning when you were like, hang on, I got an idea. And then you were like,
Yes.
okay, I'm back.
Yes, that happens to me all the time, all the time. And I'll write it because I never want to lose an idea. This is the crazy thing that I've had a couple of writers tell me this, and I don't know if I believe them, but they swear by it. David Baldacci was one of them, and I've interviewed David Baldacci like 8 times or something. And he says that when he has an idea, he never writes it down. He said, because a great idea will be there tomorrow. And I don't believe that. I've woken
But
up
you
in
don't
the middle
know
of the
because you lost them. So you
because
can't
you
check
lost
your work.
it. Exactly. I don't trust myself enough to think that, oh, if it's a great idea, it'll be there tomorrow. Oh, it might not. I don't know. There's a history of Alzheimer's in my family. I don't know, I'm not taking any chances. Write that mess down.
Yeah.
And yeah, so I write everything down, and if I think I have, and also you might have a good idea, but right now you feel
It's above
like
your
I
pay
have a
grade.
well, that, but you might feel like, oh, I have a really brilliant entryway to this idea. Let me write. So I'll write that first scene because I don't want to lose the great plot setup or the entry into it that I've just thought of. So I'll write it, and then I'll just file it away, and I didn't have the words for it, which you just said the words don't have an expiration date. Julie
Yeah.
Arch, you're amazing. Thank you for that. Um, but I've always kind of thought that okay, well, I'll just write it and I'll file it away one day. And I've done that every now and then, maybe every couple months. I'll just kind of browse through my junkyard and I go, oh, that's good. And like it'll spark something again. And then I'll take off and write it. And,
You
you know,
know what happens with me with those ideas though?
what's that?
So I it takes things so long to marinate in my brain. You know, I think it was like J.K. Rowling who said
Yeah.
Harry Potter just like walked onto the train fully formed. If only
Yeah.
I could be blessed with that gift. Like I get
Same.
little snippets of things and I
Yeah.
have to think about them and mull it over and over and over. Like this idea that I was just telling you before we started that I sat
Yeah.
down and kind of started putting on paper today. It
Yeah.
started with the title. And then I got two comps that came in, and I'm waiting for that third comp to just come crashing down because I think usually that's for me. When I think of that third comp, that's when everything kind of snaps into place. But it could take me another 2 or 3 months before I, kind of
Yeah.
pull it all together. And so, in the meantime, I'm not just going to sit here and wait on my muse. I'm going to do
Yeah.
something else. I'm going to revise another novel that I started. I'm going to polish something that's been to the copy editor. I'm going to work on marketing materials for something that's already out there. Like, I'm going to always be busy doing something because that's
Yeah.
how you move this career forward.
Right. For the past 2 years, I've had big projects that I've been working on, and I wrote two science fiction trilogies that are both publishing in 2026. And I had this all this stuff laid out, and I'm not writing another science fiction trilogy right now. Um, but it took so much out of me the last 2 years to do that, and it's not my. I love to read science fiction. It's not my first love for writing. Um, And so I'm going into
I have
2026.
so many questions now.
Oh, let me
Keep
finish
going
this and
though.
you can.
Yeah.
Okay. So I'm going into 2026 without kind of my year planned out for me.
Mhm.
But I wrote this mystery novel for our 60-day challenge, Murder Town, that I absolutely love. I'm in love with these characters. I'm in love with the possibilities that have come about. And and after kind of putting that book away for it's only been a couple weeks now, but I'm already thinking of I've already got another book in the series, that I've got the big idea for. I haven't mapped it out yet, but I've got a big idea, and it's going to be a cold case, from 25 years earlier that they get into. Um, so that's good, and then I'm thinking, um, that like there's a bunch of other possibilities after that. And
Mhm.
so I'm excited about the series possibility for it. So after the first of the year, I'm going to revise the book that I just wrote and go through that, and I'm gonna indie publish it. I'm pretty sure, and I'm probably going to publish it around May, and then
Yeah.
I'm going to start all over again. Hopefully, have a first draft done and maybe some light revisions done by the time the 60-day novel challenge comes around
Comes around.
again,
Mhm.
and then start that process all over again. So that's
But
kind of where I am.
isn't
And
it
write
kind of
a short
great?
story between those.
Isn't it kind of great that you have 6 novels coming out next year
Yep.
already in the pipeline with someone else? So now
Yep.
you get to focus on all of this just for you. And
Yes.
something's always churning, something's always coming out. I mean, I think that, and that's the key, particularly, I think, if you're indie published in any respect, or if you're
Yep.
hybrid published, not meaning a hybrid publisher, but meaning like you have both a foot in the traditional world
Right.
and the indie world. That's the part of the game. That's how you get, you know, get the
Yeah.
money because you're selling your backlist, you're turning out new titles. It's
Yep.
kind of
And
awesome.
I'll have those books publishing into 2027. So,
Mhm,
and I've got that
mhm.
machinery working, and then I'll have Murder Town ready to publish probably around May. I haven't really thought out, but I'm thinking around May. So then that's my indie books that are coming, and I just published Crossroad Blues a couple months ago as an indie title, and so kind of and because I like my publishing kind of paused for a while as I've been writing this other stuff because I didn't have enough hands, so I'm kind of building that steam back up. And this is the great thing um about publishing and indie publishing especially, um is it you get if you start listening to a lot of people that are in this hardcore indie publishing world, and that talk about publishing all the time, rapid releases and all that, and you've got to kind of have the machinery going. The reality is that if something comes up and you have to pause your publishing career for a little bit while you work on something else, it'll still be there. It's
Mhm.
yes, it'll take a little bit to get your steam built back up and all of that, but this is
Well,
it
that's while I put the machine pieces in place, I'm
yes.
actually not putting a ton of marketing push behind the one book that's out there.
Right,
Right now, my whole goal is to build that backlist before
right.
I really start a marketing push. So I'm trying to pay attention to the pieces of the machine
Yeah,
and get them in place because I
yeah,
think that's key. And I know we've said it before that this is a long game, and I am playing the long game. I'm going to be
yes,
patient. I'm going to play the long game, and I'm doing my best to do it right.
yeah, yeah. Hugh Howey, around the time that he published Wool, which is now the breakout TV show on Apple Plus, whatever it's called. Um, he had enough foresight to realize that, or and I think his goal was to have a breakout hit, but he had the foresight to know that while he waited on all the planets to align, he was going to keep publishing and he was going to keep writing,
Mhm.
publishing, getting a back catalog built up so that when he did have that book that really captured people's imagination, they had something else to go by
Yep.
and
Yeah.
to occupy their time while he wrote something else so they didn't forget about him. And
Yeah.
it proved to be genius because when Wool broke out, he had other books for people to go pick up.
I mean, I think it makes sense to me. And
Yeah,
everybody, let's just disclaimer this. What makes
yeah,
sense to me might not make sense to you, might not make sense to everybody out there. And so I'm trying to figure out what makes sense to me. And so my girlfriend, Jen, who she's
yeah.
also been on the podcast before, Jen Braxma,
Jim Braxma,
Jen
yeah.
is hilarious. And she's got
Yes,
three
she is.
books out now. And she's like, you know, she doesn't like to market. She doesn't like the business of it. She just likes to
Yeah,
write, right?
right.
And she's like, I've done all the things that they say to do, the newsletter, the social media, the this, the that. It is not helping sell my books. She's like, I got a new plan. And I was like, what's your new plan, Jen? She's like, my new plan is I'm just going to do whatever you do. And I was like, well, my plan,
So
I
about
said,
that.
is to George Costanza it, because just like in that episode of Seinfeld where George Costanza, who's like always striking out with women, always striking out in life, he like does the opposite of what his instincts tell him to do one day, and suddenly he's like working for the New York Yankees and he's like got this awesome girlfriend, right? And
Yeah.
so that was like the running joke for a while. I told her that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to literally do the opposite of what everyone says because I don't want to do social media. I don't want to write a newsletter. I don't want to write these things. So I was like, guess what I'm going to do once I have my 3 more books out next year? I'm just going to figure out ads. And I'm going to say to hell with the rest of it.
yeah,
I'm going to
yeah.
find an ad that works and I'm going to write it till it doesn't work. That's my plan.
Well,
So,
and if you take the um if you take that idea that words have no expiration date and you really take that to heart, if you have a book and it's not selling this month,
mhm.
okay, those words still exist next month, and
Yeah,
you can try the next thing, and maybe people come in and they'll start reading Facebook author groups, and this person says, well, this thing worked for me, and someone else said, well, this thing worked for me. Another person says, well, this thing worked for me. So a new author comes in and they just start grabbing all of the things
everything.
that worked for me and just throw it all in there. Well, when you do that, you don't know which one worked. So maybe you have a breakout month. Well, was it because of this thing or this thing? Well, we don't know because you did them all. So why not try one thing? One, see if it works
Yeah.
toward getting eyes on your book. And another thing, is it something you can sustain? Because if it's
Mhm.
writing a really, brilliant newsletter or something, well, can you do that every month? Is that something that you want to come back, or is this
Or do
something that
you not want to? I mean, I'm gonna be
exactly
honest. I don't
and
want
then
to.
right. So maybe find another thing that works for you, and maybe Facebook ads are working, and I know that these things come in and out of vogue all the time. Facebook ads work, Amazon ads work,
Mhm.
all of that. But find the thing that you can do that works for you and that is sustainable for you, and maybe pour yourself into that. And
Mhm.
you know, but you can't do that if you just try all the things all at once, because you don't know what worked and what didn't.
Yeah. Yeah.
You
You
know,
gotta hone it in.
you got
But
to
I
hone
mean,
it in.
these are all the seasonal things like
Yep,
that you can do it year round.
yep.
So
You can, you can, but
not
you
just
can't do any of that if you're not writing books.
if you don't
And
have a ding dong book.
if you don't have a ding dong book. And then once you once you have a ding dong book, I promise you, I promise you, and I don't make very many absolute promises when it comes to writing, but I promise you, if you write one book, you'll want to write a second book.
Mhm.
It just happens. You may think that you have nothing else, you don't have another story to tell. I promise you, if you write this book, you will have you'll have that vacuum in your head, and another story will come in to fill that vacuum. It happens every time.
There was this adorable Scottish writer that when I very first started writing, I used to listen to her podcast. It was a relatively new podcast. I don't remember the name of it at this point. It's been like 10 years, right? But
Yeah,
I think it kind of had to do with writing, but also maybe anxiety. Like she kind of
yeah,
had a double spin on it. And I remember her having several authors that came on the podcast that said, I'm worried I don't have a second book in me. And I
mm,
was like, whew, that's the one thing I am not worried about. I have so many
no,
ideas swirling around in my head. But I think the key is you focus on one until you get it to the finish
yep,
line, get that first
yeah,
ding
no,
dong book out there, and then start figuring out how to juggle the rest of them.
yeah. But my big anxiety now is that I have more story ideas than I'll ever be able to
And
write,
time
and
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 time.
like
Yeah.
now, which ones are the great ones? Because I've got a bunch of like really good story ideas, but I don't have time to write good story ideas. I need to grab the great ones, and you know, that's
You know what I think makes it great though?
what's that?
Is like, can it hold your attention for a
Yeah.
good solid year? And if the
Mm,
answer is yes, then it's okay if that's just a tenuous idea, because if it
yeah.
holds your attention for that long, you can turn it into a great idea. You can
Yeah.
iterate on it until it is a grand slam. That's my feeling. But
Yeah.
if you even the greatest idea in the world, if you lose interest in it in 2 weeks and you move on to something else, it will never see fruition.
Yeah.
So you got to have the grit too. That's
Yeah.
the
Well, and a good example of that is I've had this idea for the book that I just wrote, Murder Town. I'd had this idea that there was a guy who wanted to be a mystery novelist, but he couldn't get through that first draft, and then he you know, has a dead body that shows up in his town, and he you know, turns his focus to solving this murder as opposed to writing his book, and you know, through doing one thing that helped him do the other. And so it had this kind of loose idea, but it wasn't a great idea. It was like, oh, this will be fun, but it didn't really pop. You know, there wasn't something that just made it, oh, this is great, until one day I came up with the idea, what if he starts a true crime podcast, and he's in a small town, and he starts accusing everybody in town of this murder while still trying to be a part of this town, while isolating himself from everybody because he's accused everybody publicly on a worldwide stage. You know? And then I was like, oh, this is going to be good. And then, you know, that one idea, you know, unlocked it for me. But this was a story idea that I'd carried around literally for
Mhm.
years. I had literally,
Let's
this
let
is
it
something that was
marinate.
in my junkyard. I was like, oh, that will be a good idea when, you know, kind of like your idea that you've got the two comps, and when you get that
Mhm.
third, you know, that it's just
That
going to
last piece
unlock
of the
something.
puzzle.
That last piece of the puzzle. Yep. But if you're not constantly working on story ideas, these things will never, you know, that one great piece of it will never fall into place. So that's why you got to be a year-long writer.
Okay, let's circle back around because
Okay.
I'm curious. If you don't like to write sci fi, how did you end up writing six traditionally published sci fi novels, Hank? How did that come to be?
Okay. Honestly,
Yeah.
because
No, lie to me.
I was have well, I was having this conversation with my friends, uh, Steve and Rhett, who own Athon Books. And Steve, before starting Athon, was a book editor and
Mhm.
writer, but he was also an editor, and he edited my book Writer's Block 10 years ago, and he said the ending of that book just, he said, I didn't see it coming, and it stayed with me forever. And he said, I really want, but when they started the publishing, he said, I want to publish a book um, from you that has that same kind of thing, but you know, would you ever want to do something? I was like, I don't know. I don't have an idea, but if I come up with an idea, I'll pitch it to you and then we'll go from there. And so one day you know, I had a junkyard moment where I had and a story idea, and then another piece came to it, and so I emailed Steve and said, I think I have a story idea. What do you think about this? And so we went back and forth, and he was like, I love it, write it. So I started writing it, and in the midst of that, another story idea came for the second series that had nothing to do with the first, but because I was working on this, you know, the thing happens where you get other ideas. And so I
Mhm.
emailed him and I said, well, bad news. I came up with another idea, and we went back and forth, but he said, love it. So he sent me another contract, and I signed a contract for that book series, and I hadn't finished the first one yet. And I was like, oh, holy crap, what am I going to do? And so that's where, but, when I say that I didn't love writing science fiction, it was, um, it's not exactly true. I did like it, but it's not my default position. Like
Mhm.
when I sit down and start thinking of story ideas, they're never science fiction. That they're usually small town, character driven, present day, you know, kind of things. That's just
Okay.
kind of where my imagination first goes, and I have to really stretch my imagination to go into another genre.
The
That's why
space.
I love reading fantasy, but I'm never going to write a big fantasy novel. I'm just
Mhm.
it's just not where my I love it. It feeds me, and I get things from it, but it's just not where my default is. I don't know.
I get that.
So so yeah, and if you'd have asked me a decade ago to write a science fiction trilogy, I would not have been able to do it. I didn't have the skills. I had not, I had read plenty of science fiction, but I had not read in the context of also writing to
Writing. Yeah.
understand what I was reading, if that makes, and I don't
Mhm.
mean to sound that you have to read, with your critic, tweed jacket with the,
No, but
but there is something that when you start writing, you start understanding story structure and you start seeing what an author is doing that you never appreciated.
once you start writing, reading is ruined for you. I
It
mean, let me
is.
just
It is.
lay that out there. It's totally ruined for you. And
Yep.
right now I'm reading this series. Gosh, I feel like I've been cautious not to name names. That one lit RPG that really drives me crazy, but I bring it up all the time. I have a new
Yeah.
kids
Stinking Carl.
trilogy. Carl. Uh, there's a new kids trilogy. I
Yeah.
say new. The third one just came out, and I'm fascinated by it because it has everything in it that just screams Abby should have written this. And
Really?
as I'm reading it, though, I'm like, how did this get published? I'm like, it's
Mm,
none of the characters sound relatable to children, even though what they're doing might be semi relatable to children.
yeah.
The language, the vocabulary, there it's so disconnected. There's parts of the logic that make no sense to me. But like on the surface, I love it. And I'm literally reading like 3 or 4 pages a night and that is it because I am so just trying to analyze what the hell is going on in this book. And like, do I
See,
want to get there? Do I not want to get there? I'm like,
for traditional publishing to have um the the stigma around it, that it's full of gatekeepers, and all of the, especially the things that indie authors say
mhm.
about traditional publishing, that you get that one book like you just described and you're like, how in the world, if the
The first
gatekeepers
one
are
won all sorts of awards.
like,
And it's
by
not even like
whom, like what?
weird literary. Like
That's so
it just
weird. When I often
I
wonder,
mean,
like,
I
how
have
did
it
this get?
sitting right here. I'm like, it's so hard not to just hold it up. Um, yeah, I just don't understand it. And it's not the writing itself is interesting. The concept is interesting. It has all the parts and pieces, but it's like it needed at least 2 more revision passes. At
Ooh,
least.
wow.
And so I'm like, I don't know, but not to like shift gears in this conversation, but
Yeah.
I have also heard it said lately that the traditional path is not turning out the quality of work that it used to turn out.
Well, and this is a whole side
Totally
tangent that
different.
that we
Yeah.
should probably talk about on
Save.
another show, but I think that traditional publishing is getting their lunch
Tails
eaten.
beat.
Yeah, yeah, and I think they're having to, well, one th when I start getting emails all the time from publishers because I'm on all their mailing lists, and they're promoting books with, like, sprayed edges, you know,
Mhm. Yeah, yeah.
they're collector's editions, um,
Yeah. Oh, I've got one
where
right
they
here.
can charge $40 for a hardcover
Mhm,
because it's got
mhm.
the gilded edges or
Fancy.
sprayed purple edges, or
That's what this one is, sprayed purple.
yeah, yeah, and the edge of the pages is all kind of chop cut,
Deckled and
and
yeah.
yeah, and stuff like that, and they're looking for any way that they can sell a book that they can actually charge margin for, instead of
Mhm,
just going to the bargain, you know, big tubs, where all the hardbacks are $5.
mhm.
And yeah, it's a crazy time. It's a crazy time. Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, yeah. Like Beth said, indies are handing Trad Pub their heinies. Yeah. Yeah.
Well, that's my goal. That's
Yeah.
my
So
goal.
to kind of sum up all that, you ought to be writing a book in the fall, like
Mhm.
we have kind of. Then you ought to write a short story, and while you give that some space, and then you ought to revise that book. Then you ought to write another short story, and then you ought to write another first draft, and then keep that going. And then when all of these ideas come to you for other books, you need to write those down and you need to file those away. And then when you get ready to start on a first draft, you should go through all those ideas and find the one that you now have more context for and will be something magical.
You know what's so funny is I almost said the words, why are you harping on short stories, man? Like you're always wanting to write short stories. And then I realized, guess what a chapter book is? So I really have to it's essentially a short story. So I'm gonna eat my own words.
There you go. Well, thanks for joining us, y'all, for this last live show of 2025. This is
2025.
wild, wild. We'll be back in January with more shenanigans. And don't forget to join me for writing sprints tomorrow at 12:30 Eastern or 11:30 my time if you're in Central Time like me.
And come January, just to keep plugging my new event, we're going to do 2 writing sprints a week starting in January. Hank's going to
Yeah,
take
I was going to ask you.
Tuesdays. Let's
Yep,
go ahead
I'll
and
be your new
tell them.
Tuesday. Yeah, I'll be your new Tuesday host as opposed to Thursdays.
Doug is taking Thursdays. And on Wednesdays, we're going to do a coffee hour. It's on Zoom, it is not recorded. You can find all the info in the W campus community. Everybody come, turn your camera on, turn your camera off, doesn't matter, but you guys get to be the ones doing the talking. So you can trade secrets and tips and, commiserate with each other, celebrate your wins, all the things during coffee hour. And it'll be amazing. It's actually how Beth and I know each other. Beth is over in the chat right now. And she has been to many a coffee hour that I have hosted. So I am so excited to be able to bring that to the W campus community.
So if I show up to coffee hour and I don't know everybody yet, but and everybody shows up feeling the same as me, what can we expect, like, as we get to know each other? Will you have things to kind of break the ice and get people talking? Like, what can we expect?
I mean, it can be like the first day of class when I taught high school all over again. I can get you guys talking. I'm not worried about that. And as a matter of fact, I fully expect that by the 4th or 5th one of these, I'm going to show up and I am not going to be needed. I'm just going to sit and listen because you guys will definitely be taking over. So, yeah, come and we'll chat and talk about all the things that we're doing in writing. Yeah, no icebreakers though. I'm not gonna lie. This is like one of my pet peeves, and I never
Yeah.
did it when I was teaching high school, where you go around the room and you make everybody do like 2 truths and a lie or something like that. We won't be doing any icebreakers, but I might ask you some questions about what it is you're writing.
So just a little inside Dabble baseball. We have a marketing meeting, which is now turned into a everybody comes meeting on Monday mornings. And at the end, Robert famously has I say an uncomfortable question because I never like these, where everybody has to do like an icebreaker type question. And I push back against it every week because they're terrible and I hate them. And so anyway, I'm glad to know that you won't be doing those kind of questions, Abby.
You never know. Maybe we will institute a question, but it will be about something else. Okay, we have to end this because my husband has called me twice in a row, which means something important that he needs to say.
Yeah.
Okay.
Thanks for joining us, everybody. We'll see you in January.
Bye.
Or
Okay.
I'll see you
Bye.
tomorrow, technically. But
That's
bye.
right. Bye.